What if I told you there was a line of dialogue in The Matrix so extremely profound in its storytelling efficiency and effectiveness that the entire story ends up hinging on it? This is a line that for many, it will change their life when they hear it, without them even knowing it. Me awakening you to its existence right now will change your life yet again, forever. Notice what I just did there? I built it up quite a bit, didn't I? Now, whatever I say probably won't meet your expectations. Don't you hate it when movies do that? It's risky business to build something up. Many writers avoid this situation entirely. If it's a mysterious briefcase that has everyone killing each other in hopes of possessing it, what's in the briefcase? We want to know. But little do we know that whatever's in that briefcase, it's not as cool as us just not knowing and being like, what's in the briefcase? No, seriously, what's in it? Oh. Rarely, a movie will come along and show you what's actually in the briefcase, and it will meet your expectations. The Matrix does this. What line do you think it is? Any guesses? There are a lot of famous lines in that movie. I know Kung Fu. You think that's air you're breathing now? Who gets to say it? Neo? Trinity? Morpheus? Agent Smith has some good lines about stinky sweat. Before I tell you the line, have you heard of a theory called last Thursdayism? It's a theory that all existence came into being last Thursday, including our entire history and all our memories. It's interesting because even though we know it's probably not true, you can't disprove it. For this reason, last Thursdayism is ripe for a special kind of suspension of disbelief. You could make a movie about last Thursdayism that takes place in the real world as we know it, with day jobs, buses, trains, cell phones, marriage, annoying little sisters, but the audience will think, usually this is subconscious, since I can't actually disprove last Thursdayism, this story could be the truth and we all just don't know it yet. I could be watching the truth. That kind of suspension of disbelief is so strong and fun for the audience. It's different than something like vampires. If you're doing a story about vampires, one of the first questions you have to answer is, do people in this story know vampires exist, or are they a secret? If everyone knows vampires exist, it can still be a fun fantasy, but you lose the special brand of suspension of disbelief where it can't be disproven, because the audience can immediately separate their world from the one of the story. If the vampires exist in complete secrecy, that in theory could work, but it still breaks down because the audience could incredulously say, you're telling me this story exists in our world and vampires exist, but the only reason I haven't seen or heard one in real life is because they are really good at keeping secrets? I don't think so, bud. They drink blood. Surely someone would have seen or heard something at some point, and there would be some rumors at some point at least. Maybe there are rumors, I don't know. Maybe I haven't heard of them. Ironically, with vampires, this third approach gets the closest to the special brand of suspension of disbelief, but ultimately we know a story about vampires can't exist in our world. Men in Black solves this problem ingeniously with the memory erase device. Suddenly, it can't be disproven, and its world and ours are connected, and we have that special brand of suspension of disbelief. Star Wars achieves this with its first and most iconic line. I'm sure you've heard it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Suddenly, Star Wars is connected to our world, and you can't disprove it. Speaking of best lines, by the way, this is the best line in Star Wars. If you can achieve connection of your story to the real world, but still have amazing fantasy, that's pretty much as good as it gets. Starting the story that way was a stroke of genius by George Lucas, as well as a bit of a mic drop. He's saying, get ready because this shit really happened. The fact it really happened taps into a vein of inspiration that set Star Wars apart, and it's something the series has lost in recent years, where it feels written by committee at the behest of focus groups, rather than something connected to our world that actually happened. Manga has a whole genre of story to achieve these effects. They call it isekai. In isekai, you can get as fantastical as you want, but the story starts in the real world, so the audience follows the connection. The Matrix could almost be considered an isekai story. You can't disprove it. For all we know, it might be true. We could get woken up one day to the real world outside the computer. It just hasn't happened to us yet. But there is still this world building problem of how to set it up just right, what questions to pose and answer for the audience to help them even understand the concept. Especially because at the time, simulation theory was pretty hard to grasp for the average film goer. Usually when you have something to explain to the audience, you use something called an audience surrogate. The audience surrogate knows nothing, just like the audience, and has to get things explained to them, just like the audience. In our case, Neo is the audience surrogate. But for now, forget the explanation, that will come later. He has to get convinced in the first place to even take all of this seriously. I don't know if you've noticed, but in real life, it's really hard to convince someone of anything. Everyone pretty much has their mind made up, and that's that. But people can sometimes be convinced if the source of the convincing is extremely impressive. I mean impressive like able to impress upon. But yeah, you'd probably take advice from a billionaire more than you would a beggar if it's about business. So for our special line, Trinity is going to be playing the assist. She will convince Neo and prompt him to deliver it. The Wachowskis know this, so they set Trinity up as an impressive person. In this regard, the audience knows even more than Neo. She is definitely impressive to us. We've seen her do the Matrix kick and take out a room full of the enemy. We will hang on her every word. Doesn't hurt that she's tantalizingly mysterious and attractive. That's something Neo notices too. But he hasn't seen her do the Matrix kick, so whatever she says to him better work. Here's what she says. I know why you're here, Neo. I know what you've been doing. I know why you hardly sleep, why you live alone, and why, night after night, you sit alone at your computer. You're looking for him. I know because I was once looking for the same thing. And when he found me, he told me I wasn't really looking for him. I was looking for an answer. It's the question that drives us, Neo. It's the question that brought you here. You know the question, just as I did. What is the Matrix? Wait, he already knows about the Matrix? I thought he hadn't been sucked out of the machine yet at this point. Just the vaguest rumors. And Neo has been searching for it for a long time, without even knowing what it is. For one thing, that's very poetic and beautiful and relatable, but also, with that line, the Wachowskis have accessed the highest levels of suspension of disbelief. They have established two worlds, our world that we live in, and this secret world somewhere outside it where people can do matrix kicks and stuff, and the interplay with how the worlds interact. Like with the vampire question, does everyone know or does nobody know? Well, nobody knows, but there are rumors, but only the most hardcore hackers have heard them. Like last Thursdayism, it can't be disproven. So much is implied with just a line, including a big meaningful backstory and goal for our main character. He's been looking. You can imagine it might be kind of dumb if Neo knows absolutely nothing when they recruit him. Sure, he's a hacker, but he's like, what? What's the Matrix? Never heard of it. What is that? Tell me. That might be more like how Men in Black did it. It's fine, but it's not as good as the Matrix. By the way, I love here that Neo's motivation is curiosity. Curiosity is one of the primal motivators, like survival, honor, to help the weak, to pay respects, to grow or create something, and to explore. Primal motivations do not require a quid pro quo like, if you rob this bank, you'll get to see your daughter again. If you collect the 4 shards, you can summon a god to save the world. What do you say? Let's do it. The audience can be on board with just a statement of interest from the character. It boosts the character's agency too. Neo isn't trying to rescue a princess, not yet at least. Neo isn't doing this for anybody but Neo, and he just wants to know what the Matrix is with all his heart, just like us now after that line. This, by the way, makes him extremely likable. You might think, what's likable about saying, what is the Matrix? It's not like he's saying, you're breathtaking. But it's the psychological connection it builds. We build rapport because we want the same thing, and Neo gave a voice to it. He is our guy. He's in our corner trying to get answers for us. We sense his competency. If anyone were to be our surrogate, we would want it to be this guy, who has already been dedicating his life to answers for some time. A guy who is skeptical and not easily convinced. Even after this, he is skeptical. But as Fox Mulder puts it, he wants to believe. And this is the moment of truth we are witnessing. This actually is something of a climax. Maybe you'd say it's the end of Act 1, but I'm saying for Neo, this is life-changing. And the Wachowskis did a great job of setting it up so that we feel that and we can relate. It's life-changing for us too. The intrigue is off the charts. What is the Matrix? We have to know. We have to keep watching. If you like my commentary on storytelling interactivity, check out the other vids on my channel, including the one about the best scene in Duel and the one about Marlon Brando's One-Eyed Jacks. Or you can buy the whole book I wrote on it here. Thanks.